This is Jen Berbas coming to you from Austin, Texas, after a very somber 4th of July weekend where many of our neighbors in the whole country and in North Austin experienced tremendous loss and destruction after the floods. We are so grateful to those in our sphere that responded when we sent out a request. And it has really been remarkable to watch the community coalesce around our neighbors who are in need. The loss was incredible and has impacted many people in our immediate community. If you're familiar with Austin, you know ultimately we're very much a small town and you're never more than 2 degrees of separation from anybody. And it has been a profound thing to see an entire community grieving collectively. All that said, we'll proceed with reviewing the real estate metrics from the June real estate market in Austin. In 2025 versus 2024, we do see a 5% increase in the number of transactions that were closed, which is great news. Under contract and pending is basically flat with just a little bit 1% increase, a little bit under 1% increase. New listings are up 5%. This has been the story all spring, right? A ton of inventory coming to the market. What we've been telling our sellers lately is on any given month, you only have a 20% chance of selling. So what are we going to do to get you into that 20% bucket? We've had really good luck. We've had about 80% of our listings are selling, but we're having very, very clear conversations. Anybody that says they don't have to sell, this isn't the time for them to be on the market. Active listings. So not only is the new listings up 5% right this month, 5% more new listings came to market than they did June of last year. In addition to that, things are still hanging out on the market. So total active listings are up 15%. This is a huge increase, you guys, and we can definitely feel it in the market. Withdrawn or expired listings are up 10%. That's actually great. Otherwise, that active listing would be up 25% from last year if this wasn't 10% being withdrawn. So that's actually, I think, pretty good news. We need to get the clutter out of the market. People that aren't serious sellers really shouldn't even be on the market at this point. Average sales price is actually up 2%. Really, I wouldn't put too much into this. I would consider it, flat. The pricing has been flat basically for the last 18 months in Austin. Median sold price, again, pretty much unchanged year over year. Days on market, 71 days on market. That's a lot, right? And then months of inventory is 5.4%. We talked about this a lot last month, but months of inventory is very, very different in every neighborhood. We have some neighborhoods like downtown condos where you're seeing closer to 10 months of inventory. Other neighborhoods like Circle C where you're only seeing 2 or 3 months of inventory. And then Austin at large is at 5.4. We just pulled some reporting together for somebody that is talking about selling their property in Hyde Park. Hyde Park has 5.7 months of inventory. So it just really depends on what neighborhood you're in. So this is the data that we collect on a weekly basis for our sellers. We're starting to see that inventory is just pulling back the tiniest bit. I think this is good news. That means we expect to see that continue all the way through the fall and all the way through the winter. And we expect to see it drop, precipitously through November and December. For anybody still considering selling this year, now's the time to think about it. We really don't think it's a good idea to be on the market between October 31st and the beginning of the year. Certainly not a great time to hit the market. What we're telling our sellers is they should be at their bottom line price before we get to September. So 5-county metro area average and median sold price, as we said, it's been basically flat for the last 18 months. Nothing really surprising here. This is that pending units by month. The blue line is this year and the orange line is last year. Last year's pendings, but it looks like we did peak above it in May. That's great news. And we expect this to kind of decline all the way through to December, and then it picks up again in that cyclical cycle in the spring. In almost every single neighborhood, the general seasonality is just a lot more pending units, February, March, April, May, and then we kind of decrease as we go through the summer and people start their traveling. New listings. A couple slides ago, we talked about there being 15% more listings in aggregate on the market right now. And that's what you're seeing here with this. Yes, 10% more withdrawn, which is great. But still, all the new listings that have come to market and are sitting is just creating a lot of options for buyers. And it's very important for sellers to be super serious, to be in that 20% of properties that are selling. We talked about this a little bit before. Total sales are up 5% in number of units for June of 2025 versus June of 2024. That's great. And then average sold price is up just a tiny bit, but basically unchanged. So this is mortgage rates. This is a driver of all things real estate, right? Things overheated in 2020 because interest rates were low. We started the year out with a 30-year rate above 7. And we have been flirting with a 6 handle in the recent weeks. So that's great if we can see that continue. I just saw some numbers that indicated that the housing component of inflation is actually up 3.6 or 3.8%, while general CPI is about 2.8. So it is not expected that the Fed is going to lower rates the next time they meet. We hope that with a little bit of increase in hiring in the Austin area, that we will start seeing some organic people moving here for a job, things like that. And so we're hoping that kind of helps the market pick up just a little bit. This is not amazing news by any stretch with the Indeed numbers and the Indeed job postings for Austin, but at least it's not bad news. And so we're kind of hanging our hat on that. This is actually, we feel like we've stabilized. You'll hear us say that real estate is hyper local. Yeah, we like to dive into the data for just your neighborhood, and every neighborhood tells a different data story. In addition to that, it's hyper situational. We have sellers coming to us asking us if it's a good time to sell. For the people that have owned their house for 20 years and they don't owe much on it, and they're not going to be as price sensitive, it's a fine time to sell. It doesn't matter to them if they sell this year or if they hang on to the property and get 4% more by selling next year. Because you really, when you ask the question, is it a good time to sell? You have to think about, okay, well, what's the other option? The other option is waiting a year. Great. What do you hope to gain from that? A 3% increase, a 4% increase? In the grand scheme of things, is that going to help you make a decision about selling or not if you're retiring and moving to another state? Probably not. Now, other people that bought in 2022, 2023 are going to be extremely price sensitive. They bought at the peak of the market. They bought when the interest rates were a little bit lower, okay? And the prices were higher. We talked about this before. Interest rates go up 1%. We expect pricing to come down 10%. And so for those people that bought right before interest rates went up, they're going to be very price sensitive. They're looking at a longer term time frame if they want to sell. They either need to stay in that property or they need to decide to rent it out while they go move on to the next property, and then think about their portfolio holistically. And so for those people, it may not be a good time to sell. But whether it's a good time to sell or whether it's a good time to buy is heavily dependent on everybody's individual plans. If you know anybody that needs help thinking through these questions, I was at a party this last week and somebody asked me a question about whether they should sell a piece of property in another state. We can still have these opportunity cost conversations, even though it's not necessarily something we're going to help you with. We love this stuff. We like helping people think about all of their assets in terms of a portfolio and where real estate fits into that. So if there's something we can do to help you, let us know. You guys know where to reach me. Everybody on here has my mobile number. Let us know if there's anything else we can do for you guys. Have a good rest of your summer.